Sendung hat mich sehr interessiert und ich danke sehr für die Vorführung derselben.
Yes, indeed. The general manager of the Fayetteville station, Carl G. Frank, said when he was informed of my work, the statement that Mr. Apgar can record messages sent out by wireless on a phonographic cylinder is hardly worth discussing. That is physically impossible. I never heard of it being done.
Well, you fooled him. Well, I can understand him saying that in 1915. But how long had you been making these recordings, Mr. Apgar?
Well, I have here a letter from the Atlantic Communications Company, which operated the Fayetteville station, signed by Mr. Gomez, operations manager. He asked me to bring into him one or two of my phonographic records made of their station. And on February the 9th, 1914, over a year before Frank said it was possible, I delivered personally to Mr. Gomez two phonographic records of messages sent out by the Fayetteville station, dated November the 3rd, 1913, and November the 4th, 1913. So you see, I have been making these records about 2 years, almost 2 years, before Frank said it was impossible.
That's it.
Linton Fletcher.
It wasn't until 1931 that the BBC had its own recording machine. There was a strong prejudice against the use of recordings, especially from the music critics. In fact, we used to say that music critics wouldn't know a good recording if they heard it. And so the chief engineer made a recording of the national anthem and played it over backwards to a distinguished music critic, who said he thought it was an old German hymn. That Deutsch, probably. He couldn't put a name to it for the moment.
Anyway, there was a man there from the British Army at the same time, and we walked around together, and somehow the subject of records and music and recording came up, and he asked me if I had heard this machine down at Radio Frankfurt, and I said, is it a tape machine? And he said, yes. And I said, what is it, one of those magnetophones? And he said, yes, that's right. And I said, oh, sure, fine. I discounted his raving about it, because up to that time all our experience had been with a low-fidelity job, and I thought, well, he just didn't have very good ears. But he said we ought to go and listen to it. And coming down that road afterward, there was, at the bottom of the hill, there's a turnoff. You turn to the right, and it would take you west, when ultimately back to Paris, and if you turned left, you were on your road to Frankfurt, or actually Bad Nauheim, which is the town where the broadcast service was coming from then, because they had to get out of Frankfurt because of the bombing. And so that was probably the greatest decision I ever made in my life, was to turn left there and follow the guy's advice instead of just discounting what he said and turning right, and probably never would have could have changed my entire life when I look back on it. So I turned left, and we went to the radio station that afternoon, and it was being operated by the Americans, the AFRS, and so I asked them if they could let me hear one of these machines, and so they spoke in German to an assistant who clicked his heels and ran back to a room and came out with a roll of tape and put it on the machine, and that's when I really flipped, because I'd never heard anything like that. And as far to my knowledge, there just hadn't been anything like that anywhere in recording before. You couldn't tell whether it was live or playback. There was no background noise. I was thrilled.
Hey, Jerry, what are we sweeping up the studio for?
Bing Crosby is coming back on the air tonight.
Since when do we have to clean up a studio for him? With them baggy pants of his, he sweeps his own studio.
What's the matter with you? Ain't you heard? Things are going to be different this year. He bought a belt.
That'll probably drag, too.
Hiya, fellas.
Well, Bing, hello.
Oh, welcome home.
Hey, wait, thanks. Give me a hand with this, will you?
Huh? Who was that? Your brother Everett?
No, that's a moose. He followed me down from Canada. Steady now, boy. Whoa, now. Steady there. Whoa, now.
A moose, eh? Where's Everett?
He's outside, strapped on the fender of my car.
Hey, Bing, you made it just in time.
Oh,
Look.
good. I live and breathe. Here's my guitar player, Perry Bodkin. What are you doing over at that mic? And what am I doing over here? Perry Big Body. Ad lib. I'll get over there in a minute. Where the blue of the night meets the gold of the day, someone waits for me. Not you.